Hello, this is Dr. Marty Klein with another video quickie. Well, today I want to talk to you about alcohol, which makes sex even more complicated than it already is. You know, in America, sex and alcohol go together like peanut butter and jelly, or a fish and a bicycle, or desire and guilt. As a therapist, I see very few people who ask for help with their drinking. On the other hand, I see a lot of people whose lives are affected by their drinking, specifically their sex lives. When I think about sex and alcohol, I think about Pat, who lost most of her vaginal lubrication after going through menopause. Now she drinks before sex to distract her from the physical discomfort of intercourse, which she's unwilling, unfortunately, to discuss with her husband. Or I think about Cristine. Her husband found her quite desirable, but she just couldn't forget about, as she put it, the boobs I had before my 3 kids sucked all the shape out of them. She hated getting undressed in front of Mario, and so she drank before sex to forget about her body. Or I think about Dan, who was simply an alcoholic. He rarely did anything without drinking first. He especially drank before sex because he felt guilty that his sex drive was lower than his husband's, who told him regularly that alcohol had reduced his libido. And I think about thousands of sorority women exploited by drunk men and unable to take care of themselves because they chose to drink so heavily. So why? Why? Consciously or not, people combine alcohol and sex for 4 main reasons. 1, analgesic, to cope with physical pain. Genital pain, of course, but also back pain and pain in just about any joint you can name. Knees, hips, elbows, wrists, the true sexual parts of the body. Number 2, disinhibition, to care less about possible consequences or various considerations or past experiences. Some people drink so much that they have sex with someone they'd never consider if they were sober. It's also how people can agree to have the same disappointing experience over and over. The what the hell of the alcohol overrides the situation ended poorly the last 3 times. Why would I agree to a 4th time? Alcohol can also provide the internal permission to do something you know you shouldn't do, but kind of want to, like sleeping with your husband's friend or going to a strip club after work instead of going home. Reason number 3, anti-anxiolytic, to reduce anxiety before or during sex. That includes classic performance anxiety, of course, as well as guilt, shame, and an assortment of fears, from climaxing too soon to taking too long, from fear of farting or wetting the bed to fear of God. And the 4th reason that people combine alcohol and sex, to enhance desire, aphrodisiac. When someone figures they're going to have sex they don't want, or sex with somebody they're angry with, or sex in a situation that's especially unsexy, like your mother's house, alcohol can temporarily bridge the gap from indifference to willingness, or from willingness to active participation. So, what's the problem with alcohol and sex? Well, while alcohol can provide various kinds of short-term relief, there are several costs to this approach to sex. The main one, of course, is that drinking may be someone's central coping mechanism, not just for sex, but for everything. In that case, their drinking may be undermining their relationship, their parenting, their career, their health. No one should be dependent on a single coping mechanism, even a healthy one, for all of life's challenges. And when that coping mechanism carries risks to health, safety, and intimacy, that dependence is even worse. Another problem is that drinking before sex can make it harder to be present during sex. This is ironic, since many people want sex to be a source of emotional connection. If the thing that makes it easier for you to have sex also makes it harder to be present during sex, the net gain may be 0. Another problem is that alcohol doesn't resolve whatever problems are making sex difficult, such as self-consciousness about your body or performance anxiety. And the temporary relief of drinking may make sex bearable enough to limit somebody's motivation to fix things that don't really work. And then there's the way alcohol makes clear communication difficult and makes misunderstanding easy. Unfortunately, conflict when one or both people have been drinking can get pointless or ugly very quickly. Now, the way that alcohol undermines communication can make someone not hear or not believe when somebody else says no. It can also make someone think they've said no really clearly when they haven't been clear, even to a sober person. And of course, some people become selfish, angry, or clumsy when they drink. Anyone would have trouble navigating that kind of a partner, especially if they've been drinking also. Alcohol complicates the very important question of consent, since it typically disinhibits us, makes us less anxious, and can make sex seem more appealing. It also makes regret the next day more likely, and regret can invite someone to retroactively reinterpret the events of the recent past so that they think they recall and eventually believe that they did not fully consent. Even if someone consents to sex, alcohol can allow them to do activities that they might not do when they're sober, such as sex in public, sex with more than one person, sex without a condom, or rough sex. And so again, alcohol can invite subsequent resentment and a belief that the sex wasn't entirely consenting. And if both partners drink, the law and our university system hasn't figured that out. Obviously, being drunk is no excuse for forcing anybody to do anything. That's totally clear. But if one person says, I was too drunk to communicate clearly, and the other person says, I was too drunk to understand an ambiguous refusal, we can surely sympathize that something terribly hurtful has happened, but how do we assign blame? How does being drunk release one person from their responsibility, but not the other? It's difficult to protect people from themselves without infantilizing them. To put it another way, it's hard to grant people full autonomy and then protect them from their own vulnerability and mistakes. Young college women in particular are demanding both sexual autonomy and protection from the effects of their own and others' drinking. No society has ever achieved the balance of those two that would be satisfactory today. So, given what we know that people want from combining alcohol and sex, what are some alternatives? Well, consider what other things could increase your desire. These might include a partner doing more housework, sex at a different time of day, a few minutes of alone time, and an honest conversation about what activities or words you'd like off the table. Here's another thing. Consider a different pre-sex routine, such as anti-inflammatory medication, stretching, or hot bath. Consider increasing your self-acceptance. Get a more realistic vision of normal human bodies, including the aging process. Ask your partner to focus on the body parts you like. Discuss your desire to be more comfortable with possible suggestions, such as, please stop teasing me about the size of my butt. Consider and communicate if you have conditions for desire and pleasure that you haven't been taking seriously, such as wearing socks in bed when it's cold, a lock on the bedroom door, or maybe your partner's increased personal hygiene. If you feel anxious when having sex with a new partner, consider postponing sex until you know the person a little better. Practice, out loud and with a mirror, setting limits on what you want to do, such as no blowjobs until I know you better, or no butt play ever, or I don't need to climax every time, or yeah, I'll play with my nipples, but no teasing about the milk that may drip from them. If the sex in your life is typically a threesome, you, your partner, and alcohol, whether you're the drinker or the drinkee, or both, definitely take step one, and that is talk to your partner about it. I'm Dr. Marty Klein. Thanks for joining me. Hey, I drop one of these video quickies every few weeks, so if you're interested, Click the subscribe button and the like button down below, and you'll get pinged the next time I drop one. I'll see you then.